let's talk about perfect parenting.
Doesn't exist.
Is it? Yeah. Is it like I don't idealized parenting or perfect parenting?
I think it's more aligned of conscious parenting. There's always a slowing down of the body so that you can connect to the breath. And when you connect to the breath, it can slow down your mind. And kids are actually really in tune with this because they're more connected to their body and they haven't been trained out of that. They're really embodied in knowing, like, if you really watch them, they know how to settle themselves down. And what they need from us is to be a calm tuning fork. There's still this level of believing in yourself because so many of us get our identity from and our worth from the career, from a paycheck, from what our bank account says. So there is a level of self-belief that needs to happen there, regardless if you have the support of a partner or not. And that is growth. I think that's your soul's growth. Are you going to believe in yourself when the world says you can't do it or you shouldn't do it or there's a million reasons why you shouldn't do something? And I think there's so much grit and growth in that.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Halak Show. You know, this is a space where we decode stories, mindsets, and madness. And today's episode is all heart. We're talking about something that every human in this modern world needs: peace of mind. And how to actually practice it when you're juggling with kids, work, ambition, and just chaos of life. And who better to talk about this than someone who has lived every version of that chaos? She started out as a divorce attorney, became a mindfulness coach, is a mom of 3, a podcast herself, and an author of Meditation for Kids book. She's teaching parents, professionals across the world how to stay calm, compassionate, and connected. Let's get in with the episode with the amazing, inspiring, and calm in this storm that we all need, Tejal Patel. Hey Tejal, welcome to the show. I want to start with something very important right now, okay? Because I've been talking to you off the camera a little bit, right? Tell your date of birth and count of 3, okay? 1, 2, 3.
9/21.
September 19.
21st.
Virgos.
1982. I give you my year.
But I'm 87, but that's you're Virgo.
Yeah, I'm a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo too. So, I kind of sense that connection.
No way.
Yeah. You're like, I could relate because you're full of life. You're just like that. I'm like out there. I'm like, something makes sense that it's connecting, right? So, first of all, let's start with a small story, right? You featured on my debut episode when Nirali was here, and we brought up a topic because we were talking about meditation, and she was giving us some pointers of how she does it with herself in real life, and then we dwelled into kids, and then meditation mama was about you. She was like, Tejal, my friend, and I was like, it'll be so cool if we can get Tejal. So this episode is 8 to 9 months in the making of trying to get you on. So thank you first of all for saying yes and gracing our set with your presence. So what's been going on? What's been going on lately? How's life?
Well, first I want to say thank you. It's such an honor to be here. And I always feel like the right timing, right place, right time. So it's very aligned that I'm here because I'm actually coming off of a year of kind of being in a cocoon. Just from social media a little bit, just from life. I think there's seasons in life that we go through where right now you're showing up, you're making content, you're really supporting and being there for people.
Right.
But it's also equally important to take the time when our soul needs to go within and to rest. Right. So I'm coming out of this cocoon period. So it's I love the saying right behind you, written in the stars. This was written in the stars that you are my first podcast coming out of this cocoon. So I was in your debut. You're my debut too.
Oh, awesome. And I hope you get the right debut. I got mine because when I debuted, I was with your friends, right? Mm-hmm. I couldn't have asked for anyone better than that because there's some connection that we have.
She's a Virgo.
Exactly. So we just started jamming and I pitched her this idea actually, and without hesitation, she just said yes first. So I was like, you know what? That just gives you a little bit more of a confidence, that let's just go for it instead of trying to think it over and over again. Like all the things that will go wrong because they will go wrong. So what's the point of thinking about it, right? Just do it and attempt, right? So again, today is going to be a masterclass in a sense because there is certain things that Tejal adds in this world from her knowledge and her practice or the way she lives her life, right? So there's lots to unpack, but let's start from a little bit basic. You were a a divorce attorney, and then you switched your careers to a meditation coach, right? How did that happen?
The $1,000,000 question. So in my mid-20s, I feel like I took the life path that everybody takes, crossing off all the boxes, doing what you're supposed to do. And it landed me in a prestigious career for some people, they would think, a lawyer. And I kind of ended up being a divorce attorney, not by choice, but that's what was available. But I was actually really good at it because I'm a very empathetic person. I was a divorce mediator. Okay. So that means that I have the husband and wife both in front of me. And there was an element of, I would say, you're part therapist, part attorney.
Right.
And that really fits in line with who I am as a person. And so during that period in my life, not ironically, I was going through kind of a dark night of the soul. I was newly married. It was my first year of marriage. So for anybody who can relate, when you're married for the first time and you don't really know your husband that well because you haven't dated for that long, the first year was a big jolt. It's a lot of adjusting, a lot of, and I'll be quite honest, seeing red flags from yourself and from the other person. So you're questioning and doubting like, oh my gosh, what did I get myself into? Right. And I was 25, 26 years old. So you haven't even developed your own identity yet. So being in this situation where I was mediating, I also was going through, like I mentioned, a dark night of the soul. And so I found myself a friend who suggested, hey, let's go to yoga. Yoga led to meditation. Meditation led to understanding and hearing about different spiritual teachers. So I was going through this in the background of my own personal life. And I started integrating some of this stuff because when you're with both the husband and wife who are really well-intentioned, they have these great intentions to do this amicably because they have kids, but you see them at their worst. They're grieving. They're in these deep pockets of emotional trauma and pain. So it was a very interesting thing because through that, I realized that I was someone who had experienced anxiety probably all of my life.
Right.
What I was witnessing in them is what I witnessed in my own home with my parents. And it was very activating.
Right.
So as I started just seamlessly kind of trickling, like there was these couples who are really open. I said, let's try taking some deep breaths. There were some different tools that I kind of trickled in. And they were really receptive to it. And one of the couples came back and said, I tried this with my son who's having a really hard time with the divorce, and he really benefited from it. And there was this light bulb moment that just kind of happened for me. It's like, what if I had learned this when I was younger, when I was going through this? What if these kids had these tools? And that was the more important question because my time was gone. But these kids who are going through something, who are experiencing a emotional upheaval in their life, what if they had this? So it was an organic way. I got trained. It happened really quickly. Got trained in kids yoga, meditation, mindfulness. And at the time, my husband owned preschools. And so I started being a divorce attorney by day and then teaching classes in the evening. And that's how I integrated these experiences. I healed myself. I was showing up differently for my clients, but I was also trying to plant these seeds in children. And fast forward, that took a life of its own. It never intended to be that. It was just something I was doing to kind of give back. And I started creating curriculums, going into schools, educating teachers. I wrote a book, Meditation for Kids, which has sold internationally because it came out right in the pandemic. So many different things have happened organically not because I planned it or strategized it. It just was, I think I was meant to give that gift to the world.
Right. Would you say you had an awakening, right? Because you were practicing law and then, switching gears into a complete different career path, right? How did your family kind of responded to this move? Because in Indian families, right, when the parents are very much involved because they have certain things that they want from you, and then after the time you have certain things that you want from yourself. How did that move happen?
As expected, it was not received very well. And I understand why, right? Because they came here for stability and security. But I was still at that age where I was still a little bit rebellious. And it was like, and I've always had a rebellious streak, whether that's good or bad. And it was a struggle. I think my dad understood me the most, though, because he knew that I live life to the tune of my own beat. And it's not reckless. I've always been someone who followed my heart. And
Right.
there's a reason behind why I do. So it was difficult. It was an awakening for me of learning how to not take people's approval and what they say as my self-worth. And I did it. And luckily, my husband was very supportive of it. So I think when you have the support of your partner, it
Right.
really helps, because then you have at least one person behind your back that's like, I think you can do it. Just, let's see how it goes.
That's so true. Or you can have your own podcast if that happens.
Exactly.
Like how I did.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So it was difficult for them to understand. I've had so many, as you know, we talked a little bit, I talked to Shivani, I went back to corporate recently.
Oh yeah.
So, and that's like 20 years, 20 years later, I'm now doing this reversal. So I believe in life, like there's seasons and what serves you in those seasons. So, there's no hierarchy that entrepreneurship is the best or being corporate is the best. It's what serves you in the phase and season of life.
Yeah. In that moment, like what's more important, right? Like
Absolutely.
that's what drives all this.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah. Again, like let's say you are in a stable job or you have a stable career, and then what is the scariest part? Because now you're getting into an unknown territory. You're completely cutting off this part and going on to this a new journey. Were you ever like scared, double thoughts? Why am I doing this?
Absolutely. And I will be very honest. When you have the privilege of having a partner to support you, it's easier to make that choice because you have, yes, we had lifestyle changes because you're going from 2 incomes to 1 income, but
Right.
you have that stability still. And it was before having kids. So I'm sharing all this because it recognizes all these things that like allow to do it. But I will say there's still this level of believing in yourself, because so many of us get our identity from and our worth from the career, from a paycheck, from what our bank account says. So there is a level of self-belief that needs to happen there, regardless if you have the support of a partner or not. And that is growth. I think that's your soul's growth. Are you going to believe in yourself when the world says you can't do it or you shouldn't do it or there's a million reasons why you shouldn't do something? And I think there's so much grit and growth in that.
Right. And no, very well said. And see, again, you are feeding my flow. I'm not even reading this. You mentioned the word empathy, right? And do you feel like your background in being a divorce attorney, right? You had developed the skills about conflict management that you said you would like do resolution or the empathy. Do you feel like that plays a good role when you are coaching somebody into meditation, that skill that you would have developed? Because meditation is sometimes a lot to do with fighting your inner demons. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, you said it. It's meditation is learning to build a relationship with yourself.
Meditation is learning to build relationship with yourself. Okay.
Because your thoughts, right? So often we have these thoughts that are stories and beliefs that are not necessarily even ours. And when you're sitting with yourself, they come to the surface for you to face, for you to is this even my voice? Is this my belief now? What you might have believed in your 20s, I'm sitting here in my 40s, I'm a very different person to who I was and what I believed in. So it's constantly reevaluating yourself. And empathy, I believe, I think the empathy I had in my 20s has evolved into who I am now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. Because, at that point of time, the word empathy could be different to you. But then once your life teaches you actual empathy, right?
Yeah. You nailed it. Life, it's a skill that it's like you develop. It's not something like, oh, I have empathy. It's like you're going to be put in positions where you have to build that belief that like, I am an empathetic person. I have a choice to either judge or have mercy in this situation.
Right.
And what are you going to choose? Is a constant evolution of choosing. You can always have deep care for people. I think our soul is all of us are built with empathy because that's our soul's quality, is to care and to connect and feel other people. But to have it in action, that takes experience and wisdom and age to develop that.
And that's when meditation coaching comes into play, where, like you said, it's a constant practice. It's not like a one switch that you click and, everything is now, I'm like in Zen now. It just takes practice, right? One last question on this segment you had said somewhere, don't quote me on this, but you had said something around these lines that you wish every child knew how to meditate, right? That's so deep and hard hitting, especially that now I'm a father and I see my 2 boys, and one of them, His name is Zane. He is Zen. The guy Shiv, he's actually like, chaos. He does wants to do everything. I see myself in him. Like, I want to do everything at the same time. I'm learning now, how you do time management, how you can do everything you want, but there is like, what do you say? It's like there's some kind of what's the phrase? Some sort of strategy to madness or something like that, right? Can you elaborate on that a little bit? You wish every kid knew how to meditate. What was that?
I say that because growing up in our parents' generation, it was taught to us to avoid feelings. Anything difficult, anything hard, don't talk about it. Put it under, just be positive, the toxic positivity. And I understand because they didn't have the bandwidth or the capacity to feel these big feelings. That was a natural progression of human experience, that's what they needed to experience, and that there's nothing wrong in that. That's what I'm trying to say. We don't need to blame our parents. We don't need to point fingers. That's just the natural evolution of humans. Why I believe that, and I strongly, it's one of my forces that I've been put on this planet to do, is to teach or plant these seeds in kids of breathing and connecting to their body and meditating and slowing down, is because it retains their connection to their highest self, because we all come here pure and connected to source and God and creator, whatever the word that you resonate with. But our emotions they're pure in itself, no matter the chaos of it. And staying connected to that is what keeps us authentic. So helping children slow down so that they stay connected to that voice is really, I think, the function of us as parents, if we're going to evolve, is that they remain true to themselves.
Right. And so I have one more question around this. Just a follow up to that. Mm-hmm. They don't know. They are not aware. They are not going to sit at one place, right? And meditation is to sit and stay calm and bring everything, just relax. The word relax is not in the dictionary right now. How can one look at to proceed in this particular scenario?
Yeah, I think one thing is that there's a preconceived notion of what meditation looks like. Meditation is in movement. Meditation is not always just keeping your eyes closed and sitting still. That's a form of meditation. That's a form of passive meditation. But in order for our mind to settle, there is a form of meditation called active meditation that we need to embody first. And what that means is that if someone was never worked out a single day in their life and they're like, I'm ready to work out, you would never throw them into a boot camp class.
Yeah. Right.
A CrossFit class.
Right.
They would buckle and quit before the first class ends, because they're not trained for that. And that's the same thing. The idea is that we're not forcing our children to sit in one place and close their eyes and meditate. The idea in that realm of like passive meditation, it's to help them connect to their body. And they actually already know how to connect to their body, because if we have been trained to not move energy out, that you need to sit still. But a lot of times, if you connect with your body, if you feel anger, you might notice that some kids stand on their tippy toes. There's a reason for that. They're ungrounded. So when you help them, be like, hey, why don't you put your heels on the ground? It grounds them back into their body. Some kids have more energy and they might flail their hands. That's how they're moving energy out of their body so that they can come back into their center. We forget that movement is essential before you meditate. In a yoga class, you move the body and then you settle. You don't just settle. Right. So the reason if in my book there's a mixture, and it's based in Ayurvedic science and yoga, of how you blend the mind-body connection together. There's always a slowing down of the body so that you can connect to the breath. And when you connect to the breath, it can slow down your mind. And kids are actually really in tune with this because they're more connected to their body and they haven't been trained out of that. They're really embodied in knowing, like, if you really watch them, they know how to settle themselves down. And what they need from us is to be a calm tuning fork, because it's about co-regulation.
Right.
Their nervous system is mirroring and looking at us. And if we're calming and taking deep breaths and our body and our tone is even, their nervous system is automatically going to attune to that and their body will settle down. So it's not just like teaching a skill to your kids. It's a way of being. It's a way of life. And that's why I created my book in a way where it's parents and teachers and therapists are doing it with kids, because none of us have learned it, and it's easier and less daunting to learn it in the way that a child learns, because it's not so, oh, I have to sit there and do it for 20 minutes and I can't do that. I've never done that. It's a more streamlined, simple, systematic way,
Right.
and playful way. That's important.
Absolutely, because they love that one. But like, I think mirroring is the word I'm going to take away from this. So I already know what I'm going to fix now from my side, because I picked up on what tips you were sharing. So again, like, I think mirroring is such a powerful word that you just mentioned, right? Sometimes you forget, because when you get stressed and you don't realize, even if they're looking at you or they're listening to you, they will pick it up, because they're smart enough to understand all that, right? So unconsciously they might start doing that. So that's a great tip. And I'll tell you one other story around the same thing that you just mentioned about the passive meditation part. One of my best friends, his name is Neil, right? He was on the show in first season. He was talking about the same exact thing. I told him this one time when we were having a conversation, I told him, oh, you know what? I started doing meditation. I just, sit for 15-20 minutes, put up some light music and just really focus on my breathing and, allow my thoughts to, come in and flow, observe them. Sometimes before going into meditation, if I would have, let's say, read my work emails, and let's say if I would have read something which is happening bad in the world, my thoughts will just start flowing, and I let it flow, I'll just try to concentrate on myself, focus on breathing over and over again and let the thoughts keep going in. He told me his thing, meditation was, like lawning, going out and gardening maybe, or cleaning something. He's like, that's his form of meditation. He's like, I can't sit at a place and meditate. So at that point in time, I kind of, and he's a very wise person in general. Like he's somebody who is full of life, and he will always have a positive attitude towards anything. So he kind of told me that, and I was like, this makes sense. But I was still so rooted in thinking that, okay, sitting and doing meditation is the best way forward. But it's glad that you clarified that about passive meditation versus the meditation that I was doing. So to each its own. Mm-hmm. You are meditating, but in your own way. Yeah.
I want to follow up. That's a beautiful illustration of the point that I'm going to make. So, when someone comes to me and says, oh, I can't sit still, here's the secret behind it. It's slow it down a notch. So I never tell people to sit down when you're feeling anxious and close your eyes and take deep breaths, because that potentially can make your nervous system more activated. So what I mean by slow it down a notch is that when you notice that your mind is moving faster than your body, which essentially means that your mind and whatever you're doing right now, your mind is not here. It's somewhere else. It's thinking about something else. The first thing is entering into the body. So slowing down a notch means that if you're sending a text or you're writing an email or you're walking, slow down your body just a notch. So consciously, take slower steps. Or if you're typing, type a little bit slower. What happens is that your mind starts aligning to the present moment. So slowing it down, just even 3 notches will start that alignment to happen. When that alignment starts happening, you're going to be able to access your breath. Your mind will be like, okay, let me take a couple deep breaths. As you slow down your breath, you're going to notice that you'll be able to connect to your mind and be like, okay, and you'll be able to be grounded. So it's a step by step, but the simplest thing to do is slow it down a notch. And sometimes I tell my kids is be where your feet are. So if it's really crazy, just look down at your feet. You'll notice that it starts grounding your energy down. You start coming back to the place and looking around like, okay, I'm in my office. I'm on this podcast right now, and it's immediately, you'll start coming back to the present moment. And that is the secret. And from there, then you can decide, do I want to sit down and meditate? Or am I going to have this conversation that I need to have with my wife or my boss from a more grounded, resourced place? So you become embodied in that moment.
That's amazing. I have myself taken so many meditation classes and stuff, but I've never had it explained like how you're explaining right now. And that's amazing. I'm straight away going to try and, apply this and see, how it works. Maybe tomorrow, instead of sitting down for 15 minutes, let me see, what my body is before I sit in the meditation. And then if I feel like doing that, then maybe doing that versus trying out passive meditation for a while, where you connect to your body and your mind and, stay calm. But I don't know if it's just even also a Virgo thing. I think we are a hyper. I'm very hyper in general. Hyper may be a wrong word, but my mind produces 1,000 thoughts a minute. And I feel like if I don't consciously think about it, I will lose something like critical that, might be an amazing thought or something. So, like you said, taking just a step back a little bit. And it's okay to lose. You already produced 1,000 thoughts. That might be possible that maybe in 2-3 days, it might come back again if it's meant to be.
Use your notes in your phone. I feel like when I'm walking, everything comes and I have like these notes in my phone, like all those, I know exactly what you're saying. It's like a burst of inspiration always comes when I'm walking or when I'm in the shower. And I write them down. I really do. Because then it's like, they do always come back. And sometimes I'll make a note. If this is meant for me to remember, come back to me. And it does. It does come back.
Against a Virgo thing, I have my best thoughts when I'm walking.
Yeah.
And I walk in my house a lot now.
Yeah.
Because every time I'm walking, I get a thought. And then I immediately either put a voice memo or something, or I'll write it somewhere. And then whenever I get time and I sit down here in my happy place, I try to start, making sense of it, if it makes sense. A lot of them they just don't make any sense, but it's a thought. There's no control over your thought.
Yes.
So, but then it's also a good exercise because I can vet out, okay, I shouldn't have thought like that. Maybe it's not wise. Maybe this is a fantastic thought. Yeah, this is more how I should be. Yes. So it's a self-reflection.
Absolutely.
Let's switch to, this is my most fascinating topic that the day I heard about you and when we were researching, this is what I want to talk about the most. It's about parenting in the age of chaos, right? Where we are right now. You have 3 amazing children. And what's the toughest part that you think that is for a mindfulness parenting? What do you think?
So I love that you led this with like being a Virgo. So if anybody's listening who's a Virgo, I think you'll relate. We are perfectionists by nature. And I think when we're parents, we naturally put that pressure on ourselves to like want to get it right and not want to mess them up and not, you just want to do it the best job that you can. And I think for me, the most humbling thing is that I had to realize that I'm 3 different parents.
Yes.
I cannot parent each child the same exact way. And if I try to do that, I'm doing them a disservice because it's not exactly, they're 3 different human beings, 3 different souls, 3 different needs, 3 different purposes, 3 different ways that they need love, share love, receive love, 3 different ways that they share their feelings, how they need to be supported when they have big feelings. So it was a lot of trial and error. It's still a lot of trial and error, but it is humbling to realize that you're not going to always get it right. You have to parent differently for each child, which means that you have to be present, to be attuned to what that child needs. And you're going to mess up. And the beauty is that you can always repair with them. So that's been the best thing for me, is that even when I had a hard day or if I self-reflect and be like, I could have done that better, I always repair with my child and show humility, like, I messed up here. And it is teaching them that they don't need to be perfect, but also there's a deep connection that happens when they see you apologizing to them or showing them that you're human. I think it gives them permission to do that too. And I've noticed definitely with my 10-year-old, when he's had a hard moment, there's not a time, and I never elicit any apologies from my kids because I think it needs to come from the heart. But he always comes back when he's calmed down or before bed. He'd be like, hey, mommy, I'm really sorry the way that I talked to you. And I'm like, but there's nothing that you could do would ever make me stop loving you. But I really appreciate that you apologize because that's a hard thing to do, to recognize. So I think that's also teaching qualities that you can always repair with your kids. So I'm always, like I said, still learning. I'm not perfect. I'll never claim to be an expert, but that's what I've learned so far.
That's fantastic. And you said about when saying sorry, a lot of people in this world struggle. And I personally know people, name them from my family, or from my immediate family. I'm a kind of a person, for me, sorry comes out right away. If I hurt, or if I said something incorrect, or if I felt, somebody would have, if I sense in the room somebody would have been offended even one bit, I hate that. So the first thing I'll want to make amends with that thought and with that person. And I want to make sure that they are happy when they're around me, because I believe in aura, and way I carry my aura is when I'm in the room or when I've been around somebody, I want happiness to flow. It doesn't matter how, I'll make sure that I try my best to make my aura clean, right? Let's talk about, since on the topic of mindfulness, today's biggest struggles are with conflicts with the kids. You're talking about the screen time. You're talking about kids throwing tantrums, them not eating what you want them to eat. Obviously you would want your kids to have more vegetables, but how does mindfulness how can parents benefit? What can they do around this?
Oh, so good. So one of the things that I took a training on was somatic parenting. And for just to kind of explain what somatic is just somatic means of the body, which means that you are attuned with your own nervous system and your own energy as you are parenting. So we so often think that parenting is about what we say, what we do to support our children. But a big part of that relationship is we don't realize is that our own patterns of how we were parented will show up. And there'll be times like, oh, I told myself that I would never say this, or I never do this, or I never act like this. And in the moment, something happens and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I said that or that came out.
Right.
I think when it comes to parenting, the first fundamental is that there are days, say the same thing happens. Like, I'll give you an example, like your child spilling milk in the morning.
Right.
One day, you'll be able to handle it really calmly. Like, oh, don't worry, beta, I'll clean it up. It's not a big deal. Same thing happens on another day, and you might have a big puff, and you're like, why didn't you pay more attention? Like, you might have a reactive experience to it. Same exact thing, different day, different response. And that is a result to what's happening in our nervous system. Did we sleep well? Did we eat well? Are we dehydrated? What is going on in our life? Is there something like, was our mind preoccupied with a worry that something else? So I think it's always important for ourselves to be attuned that our response is going to be in direct correlation to where our nervous system is in that day, in that moment. So that's why our responses are going to change to maybe even the same thing. So that gives us some, I hope, like for me, when I heard that gave me some validation that I'm not a bad parent. Right. If I have different responses to the same thing. It's just data to show me where certain days that I'm not feeling my best and certain days when I am, how my response is. Neither one should define our worth as a person or a parent. It's just data. So that's why I say like being able to repair when we have those moments and obviously having the self-awareness to take some time when we're calm and by ourselves, like what happened? Why did I respond like that? What was the other external scenarios that made me respond like that? Constantly doing a self-evaluation of not beating ourselves up with guilt, but also understanding like, how can I be better next time? That is a different energy. And so when we talk about screen times, for example, one of the things that I learned is that when we're talking about nervous system, because that's a big part of what I teach is, there's a withdrawal that our children are really naturally experiencing. And if we're honest with ourselves too, we've experienced it too. When you're on your phone and you put the phone away, it takes your brain a period of time, and it's different for each human, to be able to come back to the present moment. And that's the same thing that's happening to our children. Sometimes some kids can bounce back quicker, and some kids, based off of their development, it takes them a long time. So I think it's also recognizing that what's happening to them is not a behavioral situation. It is a physiological situation because of the nature of what the device is and what it does to the brain because of the dopamine, because of the stimulation. So I think our job as parents, screens are not going away. It is, if we're going to give the drug to our kid, we're going to teach, like, I'm going to teach you how to use this appropriately, and there's going to be certain boundaries. And as a parent, we have to build the capacity that, yes, my kid has been on a screen, to have the wherewithal to know they're going to have a response to it afterwards. Build your capacity within yourself to be able to handle that tantrum when it happens, if you know it's going to happen. And then create boundaries and scenarios around when to use it, when not to use it, once you know your child's personality around it, like what's the time period to use. And I'll give you one last thing, which is really, really crucial with kids, with screen time. So when you're in screens, think about it for us. When you watch a movie and you like get engrossed in the time, like you get engrossed in the story. So for a period of time, you've left your body and entered this alternate universe, right, this world. Right. And whatever you see, if the character on the screen is feeling angry, you're going to feel that in your body. Yeah. You're feeling excitement. It creates these sensations in our body, which is interesting, but you're just sitting there and you're not actually emoting those, but your body is taking it in. Right. It's the same thing that's happening to kids. I walked in, there was like Peppa Pig playing upstairs. I know all these things because, with my kids, but just imagine your child is watching a show, whatever their favorite show is, all the emotions that are coming on the screen, their body is feeling it because they're watching it, but they're not expressing it out of their body. So when the screen goes off, they're now left with all these feelings. And that's why a lot of them have these like explosions, because they're trying to get it out.
Right.
Their brain doesn't know how to process it. So what you want to do as they get older and keep doing this is that you want to invite them back into the body. So be like, ask them, depending on their age, like, oh, you were watching Peppa Pig. Like, what were they doing on that show? Let them say it. Like, oh, were they feeling angry? Were they feeling sad? This gives them a way to process it verbally. Some kids enjoy that and they can benefit from that. The other thing is some kids are physical. So I have a child that after screen time, it's like, I'll be like, let's go look outside the window and see as far as we can, because their body actually needs to come back into the present moment. I'd be like, go around the room and touch 3 things and feel it and tell me, is it soft? Is it hard? What is it? Look around the room. Tell me 3 colors that you see. You actually have to get them back into their body, into the present moment. So
Right.
that's a form of meditation in itself too, is like coming back into your body after screen time.
You are a masterclass, and I'm going to keep on saying this word again and again, because I'll tell you why. I would feel majority of the parents relate to what you just said about, tantrums and how you react, and all of that you said, all the bad stuff. I'm telling you, I'm that. So it's so much to unpack here, and try for me to I'm going to go back and look at this recording and this episode over and over again, because like you said, there's so much that you have this wisdom about, your mindset, or how much you have learned as a part of this meditation in your life, that you are so rooted in trying to come up with these amazing tricks and tips that you have. And I'm sure you would have also added upon what you had learned with your experiences, right? And that is such an amazing, amazing thing for world to know today, because again, so much chaos. You, a lot of times without knowing, and I'm telling you this for a fact because I do it, you impose your own life happenings, good, bad, right away on your kids, because they are the easiest targets that, okay, you know what? I cannot have control there. I'm going to control you. I'm going to discipline you. But that's when your real parenting comes into play, is, come back to yourself. Like you said, look down upon your feet, come back to your own ground, and then think for a second and then respond. Instead of just, while I'm on the phone, no, why not eating? Just do this, while I'm walking, don't interfere, just stay away, let me finish the walking. You're always putting yourself first and what I want. And I know, and again, Virgos are perfectionists. We are perfectionists, but I would say in this particular sense, I think if that's the Virgo, then every parent is a Virgo.
Yes, absolutely right. That's right.
because
we care so much. It's the most important thing to us. That's why we want to get it right. And that's why we put that pressure on ourselves.
Again, I didn't plan. You are feeding me all of my flow. So let's talk about perfect parenting.
Doesn't exist.
Is it? Yeah. Is it like, I don't know, idealized parenting or perfect parenting, or maybe more conscious parenting, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is it misunderstood? Or the right word is gentle parenting.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that. Is it misunderstood according to you?
I think any labeling parenting anything is kind of misunderstood, because what I said is that you're a different parent to each child. I think it's more aligned of conscious parenting, in the sense that you're aware of your body and your needs and your experience, but you're relating to your child. Gentle parenting, I think, has this preconceived notion is that it's permissive parenting, that you're letting your children get away with big feelings or misbehaving. And I think it's conscious parenting is the more accurate. If we're going to say something, it's going to be more accurate, because it's a relationship. It's not just how you show up with your kids. It's how do I have a relationship with myself? And then how am I relating to them? And I'll give you 2 examples of how this manifests. Is that I grew up in a home with a lot of shouting. So I have 3 kids, so you can only imagine, and they're naturally all loud, and so there are moments, and I have my youngest, my daughter Sahana, is really loud. She's a shouter. From birth, she's been a shouter. So it activates my nervous system. It puts me on edge very quickly. And I've had to learn how to manage myself when I'm feeling panicked and show up as a parent. And what the things that I do, like when she's having a moment, is that I will say, I see that you're having a hard time. So is mommy. you can borrow some of my calmness. And that helps me when I say you can borrow some of my calmness, I visualize that I'm a tuning fork and I'm starting to take my deep breaths. I'm holding her, whatever she needs in that moment, I'm holding her. Sometimes, and as your children get older, they'll learn how to do this. Like my oldest, when he's really upset, he'll walk away. When he comes back, he's regulated because he's done whatever he needs to do to have his alone space and he's back to normal. My other child needs hugs. So that child, when they're having their moment, when it's like a really, really overwhelming tantrum, they need that physical touch and to be held. And in that moment, that Rihan, I'll say, you can borrow my calmness. And I know that because when I settle my body, his body is naturally attuning and settling to my body. So that's why I think it's like, it's not gentle parenting. You're learning, like, and I know this from experience, my oldest one is fiery. He's an Aries. If I would go in that moment when he's angry and try to talk to him or try to hug him, he's going to push me away because that's not what he wants. He needs his time to be alone and to decompress. So to some, they would, in gentle parenting, they'd be like, oh, you're abandoning your child because they're having these emotional experiences. It's like, no, you're letting your child also learn their body of how they need to express their emotions, how they need to feel safe, and you're showing up and being that support system and holding space based on what they need and also what you need. There are times that I'm like, I need a little moment and I need a little space. So I'll go into the bathroom and I'll wash my hands with cold water. Another great tip. That immediately, if you're really hot and frustrated, will cool your body down. It cools the temperature down. You'll immediately come back into your body and you'll be able to start taking your deep breaths again. So I do that a lot. If you need a break, nobody's gonna, well, sometimes your kids will run after you and try to knock, but put your hands in cold water or, go to the kitchen sink and put your hands under cold water. That grounds you and comes back to your body. So
that works with kids and adults?
It does. It does. If they like the sensation, and everybody's body's different. So what I make sure with kids, because sometimes you can't corral them to the bathroom, get them water. And based on Ayurveda, you don't want to drink cold water, but like in that moment, I would give a little bit of cold water. Like, do you need water? I would make sure that they get a little bit of cold water because that activates them to come back into their body.
Right.
And it settles them down. And a lot of them do need water just to come back. So Offer them water and give them a little bit of cold water at that time.
Okay. So you're saying regulation over reaction. You want instead of just responding or reacting to something, you want to take a step back. And this is so very well said. It's another thing that comes into my mind, another scenario situation, right? That it could benefit people. Sometimes when you're frustrated, when you are angry, when you're upset, and when you're happy, you end up reacting immediately. And then you end up doing something that you might not be able to follow up. And I do that sometimes, especially when I'm happy. And now I have learned that over the time, and by seeing life, it's so important that be any emotion, you have to stop right there, because you will end up doing something that you don't even mean. It will be so hard for you to explain to somebody that I didn't mean that, because they might not have the same understanding as you. And I think that's when how this different personalities also come into play. It's a thing to do with maturity. Let me put it that way first. It's really knowing. And you said something so amazing, right? When you were explaining about, that a perfect definition of parenting or a gentle parenting, you said people from outside think, oh, you're not paying attention, but it's how well you know your child that they will never know. And you are handling your kid in the best way you think it's the right way of doing it. So comparison is thief of joy. If I cannot idolize my kid to be like somebody, because that somebody might have their own demons that they're fighting from outside, you are seeing this, you don't know what's going on in the background, right? What pressure they have. So yeah, it's just a thought that came to my mind, about what you were talking about, regulation over reaction. Hold your ground, stay steady. Once your time is right, then you go and think and then respond.
Stay steady. I like that a lot.
Yeah.
And you're going to get it wrong. I mean, that's the reality. We're going to have reactive moments, and we're not trying to, the more we try to avoid that, the more displeasure that we're going to get, because it's just, that's not a reality. So that goes back to the repair that we had talked about, which is important.
And I also, one thing all parents have aspirations, my kid should be like a footballer, my kid should be like a doctor, engineer, right? And my dad used to joke around with me, and he used to always say, one thing you take from me is just humor, hope, and try to find funny things, funniness in everything, and then just watch what happens. Be it bad, good. Try to find something funny in the situation, and it will. You will not have any ever a problem of stress or anything. And back then, he was joking with me. But now I realize what he was trying to convey and how he was, because even he would have stressful life and he was ahead of his time in his thoughts. Like he was very much ahead. And now I understand. So I tell my elder son, Zain, that, one thing you have to take from me is humor. And when I said to take from me, just don't take my humor, but you have to find like funniness in situations. Again, my way of thinking, what meditation could do to you, like just trying to come to your senses and just take it easy. Don't stress over things that you don't even know what's going to happen, or don't make up things in your mind.
Yeah.
Instead of just, doing that, just stay in the present, right? So let's go to the next segment. This is a big one. You are an entrepreneur by yourself. You have online courses. You have your own podcast. Can you talk a little bit about your podcast? What do you touch upon in your podcast?
Absolutely. So I'm in my 5th season, and it has been different every single year, which is interesting because as you evolve, I feel like my podcast has evolved, and I'm sure you feel the same as each season goes by. But funny story of how my podcast started. My oldest has always been very vocal. And if you listen to the early segments, it's actually, he's the one who inspired it. So we would play, and we'd be like, hey, mommy, let's play podcasts. And I don't even know how he knew. He was 4 years old at the time. I don't even know how. So I was like, okay. So we would make believe and play podcasts as if we were talking to each other. And if you actually go back to the old episodes, it's me and him. And if you listen to the initial clip of him singing, he did that very randomly. And he just started singing, and it was like the intro to the podcast that we have. But it was all inspired about, it's called Time In Talks. And a time in is essentially the opposite of a time out. And so, so often when we're having difficult feelings, we're like, take a time out. But it's actually take a time in, go within in the moments that we're having difficulty. And so the inspiration was, I'm very spiritually minded, always looking for like a higher perspective or a different way of looking at the problems that we face, whether it's parenting, motherhood, life, just in general. And so every season is different because it's inspired and it builds. First season is my son and I talking about mindfulness, and he's explaining it in ways that you can listen with your kids, actually, so kids can understand. He's always been very articulate, and so many kids would listen to the podcast and understand what mindfulness and breathing and empathy and all these different concepts that are big. So that was the first season. Then the second season, there's a lot of guests on the second season.
Oh, awesome.
And so I went through this delving of other people's experiences and opinions on mindfulness and parenting and spirituality and all these different life experiences. And then over a period of time, it's evolved into solo cast because my followers were like, we love when you do those solo episodes and you really kind of like how you keep saying masterclass, give these little doses of your masterclass. So it's evolved of, I do these stage talks, which I call them kind of like TED Talks, stage talks on my Instagram stories. And people would be like, oh, we want more on this. We want more on this. And so that's how it's evolved. The podcast has been now solo casts because that's what people wanted.
Right.
So now I'm in my 5th season, and this one was inspired by, I'm going to put a little dropper here, my second book that's coming out about, it's called like the Dear South Asian Parents series, about talking about the things that we're not supposed to talk about, but because I'm a rebel, I'm talking about it.
A rebel child.
Yes, I am.
Trying to make a difference in the world. No, that's fantastic. So you're in season 5. Congratulations for that first.
Thank you.
When does it drop? It's already started?
It already started.
Okay, perfect. So I'm gonna have a lot of catching up to do. But I'm gonna start from the first season because then that's what I want to like see your journey. I love listening to podcasts and like definitely meaningful podcasts. And yours are like some of the very good ones. So I'm definitely gonna try and start listening to them from season 1 though, because I want to see your arc. I think the most fascinating part is the journey, right? Doesn't matter today what we're doing, but what was my first episode and how I came to this. And I'll tell you one funny story, right? Every time when the podcast is my thing is a show, right? What my vision for my show is what I know, what I'm going for, and what I'm going for. The fun thing I used to always get asked first of all was like, what's a niche, right? And somewhere around season 3, I kind of like awakening I had. And I was like, you know what? I am the niche, because I, instead of trying to find the word what my niche is, and then I started like thinking more about it. Like I don't want to create something forcefully. Like like I am the niche. I'm the unique one here. And then I was like, okay, fine. What associates with me? So I was like, I'm very curious about, like, I asked like 1,000 questions for somebody, and I was like, curiosity is my niche. Because I am so curious about people's life, and they are doing so good in their life, and I'm like, what if it comes from my lens of how I look at your life, for example? And that's how we finally landed. I was like, okay, fine. You know what? If you want to know a niche, curiosity is my niche. And it was a journey. When I started, I have no idea what it was. I knew how the technical part works, but I had no idea, what I'm going to do, what I'm going to say. So I was like, you know what? Like, by bachelor's degree, first 2 years, you can stay undeclared with your major. I was like, I'm going to stay undeclared. And then when the time comes to pick my major, because I'm not sure what I'm going to do. And then now I have picked my major. It's curiosity. It's my niche, right?
I love that awareness. You nailed it. And, every season is going to evolve because we're evolving. It can't stay the same.
Exactly.
And I've realized that myself. I learned this. I'm going to give a quick I'll try to TLDR this short story. I watched this movie, and I'm going to butcher the name. I think it was like The Great Marigold Hotel. And I realized this. It was a movie about an 80-year-old woman who retired, and she packed up and she went to India. And she was supposed to only go there for a vacation. And then there was this hotel, and she helped, from what I remember, like remodel it or whatever. And she ended up, at the end of the movie, she ended up staying in India. Not part of her plan, she just went to visit, and then she started managing this hotel. What that taught me was that even at 80, you're going to redefine yourself.
Wow.
So we think that like, oh, we need to know who we are when we're 20, 30, 40. It's like, no, we're constantly, and that's what I think it's like when you look at a podcast is a small microcosm of that, is that we're constantly evolving the purpose and we have to let it evolve. Otherwise we'll stay stagnant and stuck. So I love that you've come to the awareness that you are the niche. Curiosity is, because that's never going to go out of style. You're always going to find something to be curious about with your Virgo mind.
Yeah.
So that's wonderful.
Yeah. No, and I also want to talk about talking about curiosity, right? Your Instagram. And your Instagram says your ABCD, your cycle breaking Desi, right? And there's one more thing I'm going to just read from here. Unvoiced to unapologetically truthful. Yeah, that's something. I would have given myself like so many Jeep grog. I would have never been able to come to this for mine. So can you, cycle breaking, I can kind of sense what it is after knowing you right now. But what can you talk about that? How did that thought come about?
So again, lived experience. In my 20s, I went through that big dark night of the soul, but I'm in my 40s now, and I've gone through another big dark night of my soul. And I can say it openly because I'm coming out of the cocoon. I shared it earlier, right? This is my debut. So I'm coming out of this cocoon phase of reinventing myself again and defining myself. And this time it's about using my voice. And I think most women have been, whether programmed or the expectation is that to fit in a certain box. And I started questioning those boxes because they no longer started fitting anymore. And, it's any South Asian woman listening to this can relate, is that there are certain things that we've been taught to not talk about because it's disrespectful, or you can't say that, or you're not supposed to do that. And as you can sense, I'm not that rebel of like, oh, say it how it is and be forceful and be like the Jasi Kirani. That's not my energy. My energy is always very intentional, but being honest and authentic. And authenticity is a word that we throw around. It's like the new buzzword after meditation that we see, or mindfulness. But authenticity is something that's earned.
Right.
And that's earned through really doing the hard stuff and finding the courage to use your voice, whether it's setting a boundary because your parent or an in-law or an uncle makes you see them and they make a comment about your weight. How do you do that? You feel this disrespect. You feel this, like I want to say something, but then we're told to not say anything. Right. And how to balance that of like, how do you use your voice for a force of good,
right?
But not show up like a vengeful, emotional, reactionary. Like, how do we do it from a really responsible, empathetic, mature way?
Right.
And that's this new iteration, I think, of my life, is that I want to use my voice for power and and not be fake. And
Right.
so that's why I'm carrying around, that's my new iteration of like this Dear South Asian parent series. It's just highlighting awareness to things that we were told not to talk about, but we need to talk about.
Yeah, and I had Manan and Nikki who came. They were the finale for last season, season 3, and really I think that episode kind of changed a big part of my perspective with podcasts, with life in general, right? Because they kind of do the same way, but they have their own take on it, and we I'm hoping I can get them back again because there were a lot of things that I wanted to touch upon with them. But one of the topic was about like, we don't talk about it enough. And obviously we don't have a very specific topic, but in life we don't talk enough. Every time there is this tough talk to have, or like, when you should sit and listen, that's when sometimes our parents are, and it's not their fault either. That's how they have been built that way, to think like that. But they're not ready to listen. It's like if with them, and funny thing, yesterday, last night, we were having a conversation with some of our cousins. And I was saying them the same thing, right? That, I understand why women are like given a way of life. And then if something has to be fixed, why are they told to, do it this way? And why don't challenge, not just husbands, but like, why don't challenge men to maybe come step on this side and then see from here what's happening, right? And I was thinking it's such a wrong way of like, living, which unfortunately still happens like a lot. I was like, why can you not be yourself when you are around elders? Why are you creating this? Yeah, certain things like you can choose to like behave and all that, but like, why do you automatically, this thing comes in? And another thing I don't like is, like, why does men have to eat first and then women? Why don't all sit together and then eat and then, get it over with? So why are we doing this? It's a lot of taboos that we have, a lot of things that we have learned. In a way, I cycle break from my end. I take it upon myself. Like, one person has to start. I feel like my family, I'm the eldest. So I start. And then I don't want you to do it. I want you to just think about it. I'm not telling you to do anything. Think about it. I'm doing it this way. Now it's your choice. What do you want to do? But somebody has to start, right? So talk to me about your way of handling pressure with your business. A lot of times things don't go as planned. What do you do with mindfulness in your business? Or also give us a tip for some young entrepreneur out there who is thinking about, maybe in future they will start their own business. What can they benefit from this, from your experience and your journey?
Entrepreneurship is just another word it's very spiritual.
Yeah.
Because you're stripped of all your fears are going to come to the surface if you let it. And you're going to have to face it because you have to believe in yourself more than anybody else in the world. You have to believe in yourself first. And because you have a vision and you have to put it through. I think there's a balance there's seasons of growth that happen, and everything on the entrepreneurial journey there's a lesson to be learned about yourself personally. We try to compartmentalize our lives like business and personal relationships and parenting. Actually, it's all one. If you look, you're struggling in some area of your life. And if you really are aware, you'll notice that it's because it's also carried into another part of your life. If you're struggling in your personal relationships, if you're really aware of it, okay, so how is that showing up in my business? And how is that showing up in my parenting? It's all interconnected. So I think with entrepreneurship, the difficulty, one is like, once you take the leap of faith, is like you have to be your number one cheerleader and number one advocate. Right. And create experiences and trust that whoever's meant to support you and serve you and help you, it's going to come. And it's such a beautiful weaving of that. And I'm sure you probably have seen this too, is that like once you take the leap, all these synchronicities and these like you'll meet this person or you'll like you were talking about, like you found the right team and like all these things will start happening, but you have to trust yourself.
Right.
And you have to keep taking those steps and not force. I think the number one, I made that mistake, is that like if you force things to happen, things will feel stagnant and blocked in that moment. When you allow things to happen, you're like, okay, show me what I need to know. What's my next step here? It's a step by step by step. You're never going to see the full picture.
Right.
You have to just be so aligned and present of like, what's this situation or this problem or the next step that I need to take take that step, and then the next thing will unfold. The next thing unfolds. So that's why I think it's very spiritual, because it's an unfolding process, and you have to move away from control, and you have to move away from forcing. You have to move away from you making it happen. You have to be a co-creator with the universe to make it happen.
That's beautiful. If mindfulness was a startup, right? Like, what would it pitch line or like tagline be?
Mindfulness. Oh my gosh.
Like, you're making this into a business.
Okay. Oh goodness. I would say that's a tough one. I would say it would be.
Can I give you a tagline?
Yeah.
You can give me a pitch line.
Yeah.
I just said, try me.
Try me? Try me. I love that. Oh,
Right?
I like that.
See, I'm telling you, 1,000 thoughts. Something always comes out good.
I think that's better than what I could come up with. No, I love
and genuinely,
that.
I just came to my mind. I just said it.
Yeah, try me, because it's like I would say, I think, you know what I said earlier, slow it down a notch. That's
Slow it down.
Slow it down a notch.
That's better than try me.
Slow it down a notch.
Yeah, because I was doing try me. Remember, I said 15 minutes, sit down every single day. That's your time. But then I realized that's not the only way. So take it down a notch.
Slow it down a notch first, and then, or it's and the commercial would be that person in the CrossFit, the person who never been to the gym, who's tried the CrossFit and quitting, and then trying active meditation. And I didn't get to follow up on that active meditation. I'm going to put this in there. Is like when you anchor your breath or awareness with the task that you're already doing. That's where slow it down a notch comes in. So if you're drinking your cha, you're like doing it, like slowing it down, rather than just drinking it unmindfully without tasting it. Or like I said, like if you're sending a text, slow your thumbs down. How fast do we text? Right? Because it's so like fast, like our mind is doing it kind of an autopilot, breaking the autopilot. So it would be like link and anchor that, slow it down a notch with the task that you're doing, and I'm telling you, the quality of your life is going to start changing.
Let me give you a better on your take it down a notch tagline. I'll give you a real life situation how I was being told by my friend Neil, my coach from CrossFit. So I was being told by Neil and my coach from CrossFit, when they used to give me PVC pipe in the beginning to learn snatch and jerk and push-ups. I forgot the name of it because I haven't done CrossFit in a while, but I used to be a CrossFitter. I used to do CrossFit a lot.
That's how I came up.
And then he used to tell me, like you first need to master the exact way of doing it. Is if I load up weight on this right now, it's very much likely you're going to hurt your back or you're going to hurt your like shoulder and everything, right? So they were telling me to be mindful and, take down a notch. And Neil was telling me, you're going to wrong path. It's not always sitting 15 minutes. It's not going to do wonders. So you can take down a notch and then figure out if you want to sit for 15 minutes or you want to try and find your ground in a different way. So I was always being told, but maybe I was not paying attention. And now you enlightened me with your explanation what that means. Life comes full circle.
Life is full circle. And you didn't even say anything about the CrossFit thing. So that's like to me is like, what a synchronicity. That's like, you can fully get it.
All those thoughts come to me randomly. I don't know why. So when talking to you upstairs, and when we were talking off the camera, and I was trying to tell how I wanted to keep it more organic is because and then I keep forgetting that there's so always stories that you can start making sense when somebody just needs to trigger you in that right space. And then you will be like, So the coach was always right. Neil was always right. I was not paying attention to what they were trying to communicate to me. So yeah, it's funny.
I will say, so, I mentioned I started corporate again, and one of my managers, he's amazing. And he said something. He was doing a presentation on networking and building connections. And he said, he's like, he's pretty high up and he's worked his way up. And he said, you can always learn something from anyone.
Yeah.
Anyone. And I've known that, and I think I've always carried that, but it's exactly what you're going to the point. If we take the time to listen and be present with every single human that we come across, even the most, we think insignificant connections, like we're at the grocery store, where they are all meaningful. You can learn any interaction that comes into our life, there's something of value or something of benefit we can learn from it. Right. Even if you see someone going through a hard time and they're smiling through it, there's something that we can learn, if we take a moment to recognize it. So it goes back to your point.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And, sometimes great things happen. A lot of times when something greatness is getting built or it's on its way of getting built, you do not have an idea of what is you're working towards, right? So Shivani used to always tell me, I used to watch a lot of YouTube and I used to consume a lot of content. I mean, I'm not proud of consuming all the content, because some content I was like, I also should know if someday I become a YouTuber, what to not do. And it's important for me to see that first.
Absolutely.
It was my way of, trying to get away from it. But this whole thing about this podcast and doing YouTube was triggered from those thousands of hours that I spent watching YouTube. And it's got me thinking, okay, I think I can do this. It took me a long time, but I was working towards this. So again, like in life, like a lot of things, people will challenge you, question you, why are you doing this, why are you doing that? But if you just go with your gut, if a gut's telling you, I want to do this and I think there's something here, then just do it. Don't wait. Don't get distracted. It is your goal. It's your life to, create it the best way you know.
Absolutely.
Right?
You wouldn't have a desire unless that desire is seeking you too.
Wow. That could be my next t-shirt saying.
Yeah.
I'm going to, no, that's fantastic. One of the last two segments, but this we'll go touch upon this. It's about like we are in times where how you are gets judged so quickly. Like you could have a different personality altogether, right? Can you talk about if somebody is sensitive, and this is a very personal question to me because I know somebody like that, right? If somebody is very sensitive, how can they benefit from, again, meditation, or how can world change their mindset towards sensitivity?
So my first question to you, in what definition of sensitivity are you talking about? They take things personally quickly?
They get triggered, or they get personal. They're sensitive in general. Like emotions come first before thought, or understanding that emotion. Some people are sensitive because they react immediately, right? How can they convert that into like strength?
I always come back to self-awareness, and I like stories. So I'm going to give you a personal story. Parenting naturally brings out the most reactive side to us at times because we take things personally sometimes when our kids say stuff and do things. And what I realize is that anytime we have a knee-jerk reaction to something, it's because there is a story or a belief that lives within us of lack. That happened to us at some point, or that feeling came to us where we felt we were being disrespected, or we were being taken advantage of, or something feels so out of control that it automatically puts us into a fight or flight state where we get activated, and that's why we're reacting. It's happening beyond our control, really. So there's a first level of physiology that's happening, is that the reason we're having the knee-jerk reaction is something that's even beyond us. It's not like you can control it in that moment. The first step is really being aware of it. Once you start building awareness of it, like, ooh, I'm getting reactive really quickly with this, it's to look at it, it's like, what's that pattern of why I'm getting reactive? Is it when someone raises their voice? Is it when something doesn't go as quickly as I think it should? What is that specific thing that is getting you activated to the point where the knee-jerk reaction is?
The trigger points.
The trigger point. You have to be really clear, and that takes that space to be able to have that, to be able to want to dive and learn more about it. Once you do that, then you're going to have, that's when it's like, okay, I recognize this is my trigger point. The pause cannot happen until we actually understand what it is that it is. It could be a specific person. A specific person, when they say a specific thing or a specific tone of voice, can activate people. It's not even what they say. It could be just their tone of voice. So we have to be really clear on what is it that my body is getting activated by.
Right.
And that and all of this is mindfulness, right? Because you're being with yourself. You're building a relationship with yourself. You're understanding what is activating me and why is it activating me. And once you start building that, then that's when you can start activating the pause. And that's when your own way of like, okay, I can breathe through this. Like and the conscious choice will then happen. Do I want to say something right now? Am I going to respond, or am I going to stay silent and then maybe say it at a different time? A lot of times we think that there needs to be this sense of urgency of like, when something is upsetting us, we need to talk about it right away.
Right.
Actually, real mindful communication is done when you're grounded and you're not activated. And in my experience, I realized that you need some space and distance from the situation that activated and triggered you before you can have that conversation with that person, especially if that's a triggering person to you or a triggering situation. So it's all about building a relationship with your body, what's triggering you, then your breath, right? Because once you start recognizing it, you'll be able to have access to that breath. And then it's the communication. How do I want to, in a high level way, communicate in a way that serves my soul and their soul? What kind of tone of voice am I going to use? What kind of words am I going to use? What is my intention behind sharing this? Is it to change them? Is it to prove that they're wrong? Then don't have the conversation.
Right.
Is it to be able to share in a way that we can have mutual understanding? That's a better idea. I go by one rule of thumb when I'm having a conversation with someone that could be potentially highly triggering or difficult, is my need to be understood greater than my need to understand them?
Right.
And if I need them to understand me, that's not the right time to have the conversation. My need to understand them and to listen, and my capacity to listen to them needs to be greater than me wanting them to think that I'm right or to hear my point of view. And that's true. To me, that's the evolved definition of empathy, because you are putting yourself in a situation where you can hold space to listen to someone else, to understand them.
Right.
When you can do that, you're leading from your soul and you're leading from your heart. You're leading from the conviction of genuine connection, not to change them, not to prove a point, not to win an argument. All of those things are rooted in our ego, and that's going to create disconnection. And the conversation is not going to land. I think it's more about the energy than even the words that you say. And all that done is inner work that needs to be done. So if you're dealing with a sensitive person, let's look within ourselves of how we're showing up in that relationship.
Right.
That's the only thing we can transform.
Right.
When we change ourselves, one person changes, it's going to change the dynamic, because it's not the same dynamic anymore.
Right. Yeah, and I say it in a different way too. Every time I say this too, whenever I see like a conflict or somebody like arguing or fighting, I always tell them, is the moment bigger or you're born bigger, right? Like, do you want to just jeopardize for you to just win this small moment, or do you like really value? And then the moment you start thinking in your mind, you'll automatically put yourself in their shoes and be like, you know what, yeah. And then you have to also realize, is this worth it? Is this person in a state where they're going to understand my point? If it's not, then like your elder son, walk away.
Yes.
Gather your thoughts and then come back, instead of trying to just constantly figure out what I'm going to say next. Yeah, you don't need to always win like small moments. I mean, it's okay. It's life. What is more valuable to you, right? Think about that way. Do you have like any morning routine of how do you start your day?
Yeah.
Can you shed some light on that?
Yeah, I do. You know, again, this has evolved so much too as I've grown. But I will say the one constant is that I always start the day with myself. So it's before everybody else wakes up, and I have to be grounded. I thrive on slow starts, whether that's 15 or 20 minutes of slow start. It's just being with myself. And my meditation practices have evolved based on what I need, but I've been leaning on prayer a lot more and learning. There's like a technology to prayer, actually. And there's this person that I follow on Instagram. His name is David Guillaume. He's a spiritual teacher, and I've been really liking his work a lot. And he talks about the technology of prayer. And so I've been working with that aspect of like how to not use God as your errand boy, of like, God, give me this, God, take this away from me. God, it's actually like, prayer is like, show me what it is that I need to cleanse in myself. Show me how I can have qualities more like God. Show me what I need to remove from myself that's blocking that light and that frequency of God to be shown and felt by people throughout the day. It's invoking higher self and, all those different things. For the last 3 years, I have been I would say I was on a fitness journey. Now it's a lifestyle. So I always start my day with movement as well. Before I used to wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Now I don't need to necessarily do that as much. But I do have on my days that I need to do my strength training. I think that's essential too, because moving the body, it means that you're circulating your prana, you're circulating your light, you're circulating your soul. So there's a Shakti and there's a Shiva. You need to be moving the Shakti, and that's the energy in our body. And that's what allows the stillness to feel connected to Shiva consciousness, is that when there's a circulation of that energy within us, and then you can activate. That's the more spiritual lens of everything that we've been talking about, is how to balance that divine feminine and masculine within ourselves. But you need both. So yeah, I would say those are the two most rooted things that I have, they've evolved and they look different as as life evolves. We have to be flexible and we have to go with the seasons of life. But walking is a big thing too.
Yeah,
that
me too.
I can't, and it's good. And it's not just a physical thing. There's something, just like I said, prana is circulating within our system. That's why we get thoughts, because think about it, right? You're moving energy. That's why that stillness and that download can happen, is because we're not so much in our head in that moment of like thinking about external things. It's like there's allowing this frequency and this channeling that's happening.
Right. That's fantastic. And let's talk a little bit on a lighter note. Do you watch movies?
I do.
Right. Is there any particular scene, or do you remember any particular scene that you took back and you thought, you know what, this is freaking life, and I'm putting you on the spot, but that's what workers are made of. You know,
It's like,
you thrive on putting on the
life.
spot.
Okay.
I don't know. While I was asking you, like, so many movies came to my mind now.
Yeah. Okay. What have I watched recently that's like really served me? What is something that's like, this is life?
Or a show, maybe.
Yeah.
Or a documentary.
Do you have something on the top of your mind? Because last
I have
time
so many.
Okay, so
All right,
you
let's-
start first.
Mine's going to be completely out of the box. I saw, but it'll be scary because I saw lately. That's all about vampires.
Okay, so what did you learn from that? We can learn something from everything.
Yeah, I learned not all vampires are bad.
Okay, there you go.
This world has good vampires. And Shivani broke my bubble. She was like, that's
Love
not real. I'm like, oh, I'm a very filmy guy. So what happens is, this is funny. Every time I watch a movie, I bring that character. The character stays with me for a couple of days. So I
Yeah.
am that character in the house.
Yeah.
So if the character talks a certain way, I talk a certain way.
We
Because
talked about that.
I-
You're taking in what you saw on
I
television.
impersonate. It's one of my talents to find that, when I
gosh.
like something, I take it.
Yeah.
And someday for the social media to have a ball,
Yeah.
I might show them
Yeah.
what I mean when I say that.
Oh my gosh, that's
When I watch something, I think I'm good at like copying. If I see something like I like dancing. Like I like listening to music. I like singing. Like when I see somebody, I like to like impersonate them. Even in my family, if I see somebody, like I like to always observe traits. Like I told you, I'm very curious. Like if I see somebody moving certain way, I'm like, okay, let me try doing that.
Yeah, I love that. See, I told you when you said that, I knew exactly what I wanted to say. That was like last time. So kind of goes on your theme of like not all vampires are bad. So a movie that's been on repeat for us in our house.
By the way, I'm sorry to correct myself.
What happened?
Thama is not a vampire. He's a Betal. So that's a difference. I'm not going to like give away the whole thing.
Oh yeah,
But
okay.
it's not a vampire.
I have to watch that movie. I haven't seen that movie.
But my tagline was, not all Betals are bad.
Yes, I got you. So mine kind of goes along the similar idea. So that's why I'm glad that you went first. So in repeat, my house, it's been K-pop Demon Hunters. And I will tell you, there is a lot of good stuff, especially coming back to what I was talking about, like using your voice and like being able to. So there's this one song that's been on repeat with my daughter.
Golden?
Not Golden, the one that's like, this is what it sounds
Soda
like. Soda Pop has been on it too. But the one that I'm referring to is what it sounds like.
What it
and that's
sounds
at the
like,
very,
okay.
it's like, it's funny because I always put my music on random, and I always say like, Divine, you show me what song I need to know or I need to hear. So when I was driving up here, and usually that's on demand because my daughter's in the car and she's asking for it, but it randomly just popped up. And when you listen to those words, it feels like, my voice without the lies, this is what it sounds like. So the reason why I say that is I think there's a similarity to like when we say like there's demons within us. We are all facing our own demons, and we all have these stories, and at the end of the I don't want to give that way. I'm sure everybody's seen it who's seen it, but it's like we all have these like, you're too much, you're not enough, we have all these stories, and those are the demons that live in our head.
Right.
And when you empower yourself to acknowledge and own those, there's this courage and this power that comes from that. You don't need to do away with them. It's like when you empower and embody your light, the darkness naturally shifts.
Right.
And so, yeah, I would say like recently, and I've been,
That's
I was
fantastic.
really loved that movie and what it means for women and girls to hear that,
Right.
especially that song.
Right.
And then Soda Pop is fun to dance
Yeah.
to. So listen to that too.
We love Golden.
Golden's really good. Golden's really good too.
Yeah, and fun. I mean, if you guys want to know more about K-pop, I did a small curiosity talk. If you guys, it's on my YouTube channel. If you guys want to check it out, we talked about all this K-pop demon hunters, and I give some facts around how K-pop was born and all that.
Oh,
so
that's
a little bit
cool.
of history about it.
It's
It's on my YouTube channel. We just did it like this filler series that I started, but I think I'm going to continue doing it because it's so much fun talking about like different topics in the world and trying to make things out of it, right? One more thing. So if emotions were people, which one visits your house the most?
For me or everybody?
Your personal house, yeah.
Okay. I would say which one?
What emotion like visits the most?
Okay. I would say it's a balance of joy and anger.
Joy and anger.
Yeah, it is. It's a balance of that.
That's good.
Yeah.
So you're balancing it out.
Yeah.
It's more diplomatic, right? Because then you have joy, but then you also have anger, and you can balance it out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Now, I didn't want to ask you this, but I think I'm having
Go
more.
ahead, answer.
I think I know because I'm having more fun putting you in the spot. All right. What you have a favorite quote from a movie, right? It can be any movie or anyone you know or by anybody. Like just say, do you have like a favorite quote?
You really like putting me on the spot with stuff.
It's fun because when I'm asking you, I get something, and then you have something better than mine.
No. You need to go first. Then that's what the theme is. So
Quote,
you go first, I'll go.
Let's see. Well, my studio is filled with quotes and some sayings, but yeah. So my mom says this in her own way, but the context is never lose yourself. I like that. That stays with me. It means something different when me and my mom talk, but she always said, never lose yourself. And that could be interpreted in multiple ways. Never lose your art, never lose your originality, never lose yourself.
Never lose yourself.
So she says. So I like that.
Oh my gosh,
Movies
that's
I can.
Movies is hard because I can't think of like off the top of my head. But I think
Movies I like Chak De India a lot. 16 minutes or that dialogue that Shah Rukh Khan says towards the end.
Shah Rukh Khan has
That
a lot of
moment
movies
nobody can take
listed.
away from me. It's my moment.
Shah Rukh Khan is something else. Well, it's funny that you mentioned Shah Rukh Khan because when you were saying yours, what came to me is actually a Shah Rukh Khan movie. It's an old one, and I don't take this in a morbid way, but I actually this pulls together a lot of the things that you talked about. And well, the movie is Kal Ho Na Ho. And there was two different, very distinct like parts, right? The first part, he's like, it's very fun and light, and it's his like his personality is a lot of humor and if you can go back to the very, very, very first time you watched it, right? You could see like there's something going on, there's something deeper that's happening in his life, but he has such this charisma and this charm and this way of looking at life. And I think goes back to when you were talking about your dad talking about humor. I think that whole movie really illustrates we're all going to go through really painful, difficult times in our life. And I think that's come up in my life. I've seen it in other people's lives. But going back to what you said, it's like it's the intention, the energy, the light that we have. I think humor is such a beautiful quality of the divine that when we embody that into balanced with the difficulties and the pain, and that's the juxtaposition of the second part of the movie. It's real, right? Like it's like a real movie with deep emotions. That's life. So yes, you could look at Kal Ho Na Ho from the lens of like, if you're gonna look at life from a morbid lens, you're gonna look at it from that lens. But if you're a positive, like a glass full type of person, Naho is also like a very empowering way of kind of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna seize the moment.
Right.
And so you can take it the way that it embodies for you.
Awesome. One of my last segment. This is fun one for you. For me, I keep getting told by my team I'm not doing the good job at this particular segment. It's rapid fire. I'm
gonna suck at this.
No. You just say whatever comes to your mind first.
Okay.
Don't think much.
Okay.
And I'm gonna not disturb you when you're answering. I'm just gonna go to the next questions.
Okay.
So it's rapid fire. This is for Tejal. It says, okay, ready? First thing you do when your kids test your patience.
Breathe.
One word your kids would use to describe you.
Courageous.
Last time you totally lost your cool.
2 days ago.
A parenting trend you find overrated.
Overrated. The gentle parenting.
your go-to calm down song or mantra.
Om Namah Shivaya.
A habit you're currently trying to break.
Finding a balance of using my voice for good.
Okay. Indian cha or meditation? What's harder to skip?
Indian cha.
What would your TED Talk title be?
Unvoiced to unapologetically truthful.
Wow, that's a Virgo thing. One piece of advice you would give your 25-year-old self.
Everything is going to be okay.
All right. That's your rapid fire. That was great. I mean, I think you did really good.
I didn't do that bad, did I?
No, you did fantastic. I had to just fight my urge to challenge or to debate with you on certain answers that you give.
Yes.
But I think this time it was fair and square.
You can debate with me. That's a Virgo thing too.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I'll say that. But before we wrap, I wanted to give, I normally like to give, I started doing this new thing called Halak's Happiness Hack, right? Since I have the expert, would you like to give us an happiness hack for someone to, do today or just immediate do tomorrow?
Yeah. I would say whoever you have the pleasure of meeting in that given day, look that person in the eyes and very slowly be mindful of your voice. Or if you smile, like if you're going to talk to someone, do it slowly and softly from a grounded place. That person is going to feel your energy and your connection, and you're going to feel it too. There's something so magnificent and juicy and delicious about feeling like someone, like your presence and your light has made someone feel seen. So, and if you're not talking to someone, infuse so much presence and joy in your smile when you give it to someone, and when you connect with them in their eyes, there's something very magical. I can't put it in words, but there's something very magical about that.
That's awesome. Sharon should do that to me.
You got to do that to her too.
I do that all the time. The first, remember that emotion question I asked you? Yeah. The first emotion question is laugh. That comes to my house. That's the first thing. We all thrive on humor. Me and my sister and now even Shivani. Like sometimes, like when you have like, if you know how to laugh together,
yes,
you will fight through like tough times like this.
Yeah.
But if you cannot know how to laugh and take it easy on yourself, you will have a little bit of a harder time doing it, right? Yeah. And in this world of chaos, everybody craves peace, but nobody wants to practice it. Like it's a constant practice. You cannot just expect to have peace. There's no switch, right? So thank you so much for this heart expanding, this lovely conversation that I had with you, Tejal. And truly it was a masterclass, because I still had, again, like I said, I really hope I can get you back again, because there were so many topics about women empowerment, about your fitness, about, debunking some myths about women's health, and, trying to break some taboos. How you said about cycle breaking Desi, right? Mm-hmm. And we are so grateful for you, the work that you are doing. You are inspiring me, Shivani, you are inspiring like so many people. And I just hope obviously I'm going to go back and start listening to your podcast. Good luck with that. How was your experience?
This was so soul enriching. Thank you so much for having me. It was so wonderful.
Pleasure.
To have this connection with you. I feel blessed, and I would be honored to come again and speak and, riff with you. But thank you so much.
Next time we'll have much more of we'll do back and forth. Instead of just me doing this, it's much more fun, right? When you test the waters and see what comes up from the other side.
I love it.
And for the folks, thank you for tuning in. If you found sense of peace and calm, right, or moment in your life, please feel free to comment and let us know about it. Share this video with people who can benefit from it, right? And subscribe to my YouTube channel. And lastly, stay happy, stay messy, stay you. And this is your host, Halak, signing off. Peace out. See you guys in the next episode.